Hi, this is Kai Hermann from Lauf, Germany, and I play at Golf Club Lauterhofen. This is Golf Smarter number 984.
When you first got into this business and you would walk into an industry room, heads would turn and go, he's not one of us. He doesn't look like us. He doesn't talk like us. Who is this guy? And now you walk in the room, heads turn going, how do we be like him?
This is not an exaggeration. I mean, people literally used to point and laugh at me. Like, I would look up and I'd see the other bags across the green, and they just never at any time took us seriously in any way. But even last year, I mean, people were really starting to be much nicer and complimentary and come up and shake hands with very respectful appreciations. I mean, look, I didn't know how hard it would be. And if I did, I don't know that I would have done it. And so I think that in addition to the respect for the technology that a lot of the other companies are now exhibiting, I think they also appreciate that, like, going from absolutely nobody from nowhere in the middle of the desert in Reno to having 15% of the putter market is not something you see every day.
Adam Scott collaborates on the all-new L.A.B Oz1i putter with CEO Sam Hahn.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Fred.
It's great to have you on. You've got news to talk about, so that's why we had to have you on. But before we get to that important putter news, new putter news, Beat the Boss videos. Okay, everybody, check these out. It is so much fun to watch these, and you are extremely competitive.
I've been pretty lucky so far.
Explain what Beat the Boss videos are.
So we just, as I've talked about here a bunch, like, L.A.B's really special. And the reason it's so special is the people. We have, like, an incredible team of folks here. And one of the things that we've done that's a little bit different than a lot of golf companies is that we really, really prioritize golf. If you look kind of throughout the industry, like any industry, the work is hard and time consuming, and golf is hard and time consuming. And if you have kind of a big job within the industry, it's really difficult to get out and play and to practice and all that. We're lucky enough that our factory just sits right here on our golf course. You came out to visit us, and
it's amazing.
It's awesome, and it's a strong course too, really, really tough track, and usually in pretty good shape. And
it's also where the University of Oregon's golf team is, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's where the Ducks
so I was
play,
watching a video about the team and their whole area there, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that golf course. I played there with Sam.
Totally. Yeah. So it's really good course, and and consequently, we've got some good players who are still good, whose games are still sharp because, we make sure that they get out to practice and play. And so, like I've got, my job here, and which puts me in front of the camera a lot, and a lot of folks know who I am, but almost across the board, when people come to visit us, they're blown away at how many people there are, at how big the operation is, and how many, really awesome players we have. And so the idea started as just to kind of use these little 9-hole matches as an opportunity to introduce the world to a lot of the folks that make L.A.B so special. And then it sort of evolved into, not just employees, but, media partners and social media collaborators, and just people that we have any kind of connection with. And it's an opportunity just to get to know people. There's so much that happens in this industry that the general consumer would never know about. There's so many people that have such a massive influence on the game. And so this is just a really fun opportunity to get those folks in front of a camera so that the rest of the world can know who they are and what they do. And yes, so far I think we've recorded 5 now. 3 of them have already been out. I'm through those 3. I remain undefeated, but if I'm totally honest, there's definitely about a half a dozen guys inside this building that I've been ducking until my game feels a little sharper.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough when we came up and visited you to do some video of the tour. So hopefully people have gone in and seen the tour of L.A.B Golf and the factory that you guys have. But you're one of those people that before L.A.B Golf, you weren't in the industry.
Correct. Right. No, I had nothing to do with the industry.
You were just a consumer and a golf junkie. What is it that surprises you about the industry that you've been in? You talk about all these things that people don't know about in the industry until you get there. What about you? What was the big surprise, or continues to be a big surprise?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of things that are surprising. There's certainly, plenty of surprises at the tour level, and hanging out with those guys has, definitely been an interesting perspective. And I've been surprised quite a few times out on tour, and but specifically related to the equipment industry, I think I was surprised to find out what a machine it is, and kind of the more time I've been in the industry, like the whole Carlsbad scene it's wild,
Explain.
It's just they're all there, like all the Callaway and Titleist and TaylorMade and a half a dozen other smaller companies are all right there in Carlsbad, and so it's like this. It's a highly competitive industry, more so than I think a lot of other consumer brands, and with a few exceptions in kind of recent history, the last 40, 50 years, for the most part, golf is a market share war, and each company is just trying to kind of take from the other one. There isn't a ton of effort made to sort of grow the entire industry. And I've been surprised and I guess frankly a little disappointed to find out how little consideration there is for genuine innovation. The folks within the R&D departments of every company are exactly who you hope they are. They're brilliant, they're educated, they're talented. They have, interesting insight into equipment. They're trying to push boundaries. They're trying to improve. And then, as we've gotten bigger and can't be as completely nimble as we used to be where, as soon as a putter was ready, we could just release it, now we can't do that. There's retail relationships and marketing and, it's just a bigger operation to the point that we need to be a little bit more deliberate about everything. And we are committed to making sure that our research and development drives our product release schedule. And I think it gets to a point where a lot of these OEMs unfortunately kind of need to let marketing dictate what does and does not come to market. And so that's been, I guess a little surprising. I guess I just assumed that the whole industry was full of a bunch of folks like us here at L.A.B, that are just total golf junkies and just nerding out. But, and this is not a judgment at all. It's a business, and a big one, in some of these cases, with the larger OEMs, I mean, these are billion-dollar corporations that have to be very, very deliberate about everything that they do. And unfortunately, releasing only that which is a genuine improvement over the product before isn't necessarily, the priority.
No,
they got to get market, they got to get product to market. They got to, stay in front of the cameras and
paint the head white. That'll do it.
Yeah. Stuff like that. And, what else has been surprising about the industry?
Well, I'm curious. I'm going to go back to what you said about the R&D folks. They're all down there and stuff. Do they have their own community from company to company, or do they isolate themselves?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know. I haven't. I've been down there a little bit lately with some other projects, but I don't know. We've only just recently. We had been very deliberate about hiring outside of the industry. Lately, we've brought on a few folks that have some experience in Carlsbad and kind of the whole scene and bounced back and forth between different companies. I mean, that's the one of the funniest things is just the straight human horse trading that happens. Where I mean, there's these guys that have worked in earnest for all three, major OEMs down there.
Oh, wow.
And, California has no non-compete laws. So there's always just this game of, trying to steal this guy. And if you steal that guy, then I'm going to steal this guy. And, it all just gets mixed around. Like recently, Aussie Rollins, who was one of the guys that designed a lot of the putters for Odyssey, including the Jailbird, he works for Scotty Cameron now. So he was with Odyssey forever, and now he's over at Scotty Cameron, and you can see his influence in those putters that they just came out with that sort of have that Versa, silver, black, silver thing going on, and have a similar resemblance to some of the Odyssey shapes. And so I don't know if they have like a R&D weekend support group for each other or not, but they all seem to know each other. And it's funny too, like a lot of them will, we've got a guy who works here who is really, really tight with guys that work for our competitors, and they have to have these conversations and just never mention golf. It's all
right.
It's all families and whatever else, because their NDAs prevent them from actually talking shop and such.
The phone calls are being recorded. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They are listening. George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola moved their production operations to Northern California so they didn't have to deal with Los Angeles and the business of movie making, right? They wanted to be independent as movie makers to make what they wanted to make. And you're saying everybody's down in Carlsbad and you've isolated yourself in this little corner of Oregon. Is that intentional, or now in retrospect are you going, ooh, maybe we should have been down there?
Oh, no. I mean, the location itself is beautiful. I was just down there last week for the PGA Tour Superstore vendor summit. So like Superstore has all the different vendors come and talk about all the different products and everything. And yeah, it's beautiful. We had a house, right on the cliff, and that part of it is pretty appealing. The rest of it, no. I'm really grateful that we're up here. No, we did not intend to separate ourselves. It's just where I lived. I had, when we stopped doing stuff in Reno,
and that's where Bill Pressey was.
That's where Bill was. Yeah. And that's where we had a little factory in Carson City. And then when he stopped handling the day-to-day stuff, I needed to be more involved. So we moved the company up here just because this is where I lived. And it wasn't, the company was tiny at that point. It wasn't like there was, massive implications around having a talent pool to hire from, or, tax implications, or, things like that, which aren't great, up here in Oregon. There's serious corporate tax, 9%. And then, there's not a huge talent pool of, golf specific folks. However, we've found that for our manufacturing process, that isn't really as important. It does get difficult. Like we're working on, growing our R&D team significantly. That's tough, being in Eugene. But I'm not sure I'd prefer to be in Carlsbad, and the analogy I can think of is, in the bar business, where whenever we needed to hire a bartender, there was always kind of this, question as to whether or not you wanted to hire somebody with experience or whether or not you wanted to hire somebody that had never done it before. The advantage of hiring somebody experienced is that your training process is a week and a half long. You need to teach them, the little systems, nuances of how your bar works versus other bars. But the drawback of that is that they're always going to make an old fashioned the way that they make an old fashioned, even if it's not the way that, that our bar makes an old fashioned. And it's, and they kind of get, stuck in doing things, a certain way. It's similar here where, I'm not positive I'd want engineers that have worked at other companies. I mean, particularly in the putter business, the
L.A.B broke the mold.
We broke the mold, and we found that a lot of the folks within the industry still have a hard time accepting that. Mm-hmm. And so pulling from within that industry to have to like convince somebody that something special is going on here is a little bit more tedious than, having somebody who's, never done this kind of work before and at least specifically in the golf business. So it's got its pros and cons, but I mean, the biggest pro is the golf. I mean, that we sit on there's no opportunity like this anywhere in Carlsbad. It's impossible to play golf in Carlsbad unless you belong to a private club, like, public
Southern
golf takes
California
6 hours.
just seems to be that way.
Totally. And that we have, this incredible practice facility and this huge golf course. And, all of this right here is definitely something I wouldn't trade for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you and I first started speaking, when I first became a lab rat back, I don't know, about 5 years ago, I guess, 2018.
Sounds 19? About right.
Yeah.
Probably would have been 19, yeah.
Yeah. And you bought the company in what year?
So Bill and I met in the summer of 2017. Okay. We kind of got serious about talking about partnering in the fall, and then by spring of 2018, it was official.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was either end of 18, beginning of 19 that we first met. You had like, 15, 18 employees at the time?
Oh, probably less than that.
Yeah.
I think we probably had, I think when we moved to Eugene, which was in 2020, I want to say we came, I think we had 12.
Wow.
In 2020.
And 2025 as we start the new year?
I think about 180.
Oof.
Yeah.
And you own the building?
We don't own the building, but we do have a nice lease on it, and we now have the whole building, whereas we used to kind of be in one chunk over here and
barbershop's
there and whatever. Barbershop's still there for the moment, but yes, she's going to be moving to downtown Crestwell, and hopefully be a better spot for her, and we'll have a nice fancy new break room.
And then there's some space that can be grown. You can grow your space there as well.
Correct. Yeah, there's another lot across the street, and should we need it, the space is there.
Wow, that's amazing. Can a company survive with just a product, meaning a putter? Because not many of the OEMs just do one type of club.
Yeah, I mean, all evidence would say yeah. I mean, we're doing it. It actually occurred to us. I think we're probably I can't think of anybody else who would be able to claim this, but I think that we are the largest standalone putter company in the history of the game.
Wow. Well, I've been telling people you're the hottest company in the industry. For sure,
fastest growing for sure, but I can't think of another standalone putter company that ever made it to the heights that we did before, either getting absorbed by a bigger OEM or
when Tiger started using the Scotty Cameron, right?
That was a Titleist product.
That was a Titleist product. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And before that, he was with Mizuno. Mm-hmm. And I also, even then, I don't think Scotty Cameron was as big as L.A.B is now. Wow. They are now, obviously, but when it started out, I don't think so. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and obviously Cameron is kind of a standalone brand, aside from Titleist or whatever. But I mean, totally bootstrapping it, I know of no putter company that's ever made as big a splash as we have these last few years.
And the key to that was success on the tour.
It certainly helped. I mean, through our entire company history at this point is just a series of lucky breaks and great timing and all that. But I mean, even without the tour, the company was on a significant trajectory even before Lucas and all that that craziness. It certainly helps.
Yeah, yeah, and it was when Lucas won 2 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. After being just documented of struggling for a decade with his putting. Yep. And then he won 2 weeks in a row, and he had a L.A.B broomstick in his hand, and everyone took notice, even though a lot of people were going, wait a minute, Adam Scott's playing.
We have to call them sweepers now, by the way. We can't call them broomsticks anymore.
Oh, really? Why? Oh no!
Callaway managed to somehow trademark the word broomstick and sent us a cease and desist. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah, so we now call them sweepers. So yes, Lucas was using a Mez sweeper, and
God. But it wasn't a sweeper at the time.
no, it sure wasn't.
That must have been all hands on deck. We just got this cease and desist letter. What was the reaction to that?
Just like annoyed.
Really?
I mean, it's just
Come
so
on,
petty.
guys.
It's just so petty. And, and the unfortunate thing is, it's like, they got a guy, their legal team's doing their job. They try and trademark and patent whatever you can. Right. And, it's a little weird that they went and did it. It's certainly weird that they enforced it, but that's their prerogative. But it's just the biggest failing in all of this is just that the U.S. Patent Office allowed them to trademark a household item is wild. And like, if we wanted to do anything about it, the actions with them, not Callaway, and which we got better things to do.
Oh my! It's kind of like the time I got pulled over by a young cop, and I was not young. I'm like, "What do you want? What can I do? I'm sorry, but you have something better to do than this. I didn't do anything. Leave me alone." Oh God! All right. So what happens? No, what would it take beyond just cash? Or is it just cash for someone to come to you and say, we want to put our brand on L.A.B putters. We want to buy your company.
Oh, like another OEM?
Sure. No, Elon Musk.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't personally see, if there is to be somebody out there to buy us, I would doubt very much it would be another OEM. At this point, it's just too expensive for them, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying a second ago, where there really isn't precedent for a standalone, technology or company that, is achieving what we've achieved in the market. And so it's gotten to the point where, like, a lot of times what you'll see is these OEMs, if they see emerging technology, a lot of times they buy it and just put it on the shelf just to protect themselves from, getting out-teched. Multiple companies had their opportunity with us, and ultimately passed on it. And then I think it was surprising to everyone how big a market share we've ended up with. But they saw the writing on the wall, and then kind of it getting priced out of being a reasonable option for them to just kind of buy it and put it in a drawer. It's just too big a company now. And so now what you're seeing instead is them, attempting to compete with the technology, which, was inevitable. And we knew we'd see it at some point. And so, I think that's what's going to continue to happen. I think we'll see, putters that are claiming similar technologies to us continue to pop up from every brand over the course of the next, 18 months or so.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But it's probably more like, if they're going to buy it, they're just coming in to buy your patents, not your products.
Well, that's kind of the reason why they wouldn't, is that at this point it would
too big for that.
Well, it's too big, and it would be silly for them to shut it down. It's a healthy company. It's profitable. It has a presence. It has tour players. It has all the stuff. Like, it's not like some small emerging company. There would be no reason for them to just shut it down and put it in a drawer, because it's a healthy company. At the same time, it's complicated to try to, like, own two brands. So it would make sense. It would make sense for a company that doesn't have, like, a huge, have any putter, anything in the putter space, like a Strixon, for instance. They do own Never Compromise, I think, or maybe Cleveland does. I'm not sure exactly how that whole company works, and so maybe something like that, or a company that struggled to kind of have putters be a significant part of their business, like a PXG or a Cobra or somebody like that that's got some product in the putter space but never really made a huge splash. Might make some sense for something like that, but I frankly don't see it, and it would have to be. We wouldn't entertain anything that wouldn't allow us to continue to effectively operate the way that we operate, with our own brand, with our people in our building here in Cresswell. And so, if you're a major OEM from Carlsbad and, maybe there's a nice opportunity here, it's a weird thing to be $1 billion company and just allow for this little siloed, group of folks up in Eugene to just do their own thing. So, if anybody was to ever buy us, my guess is it's, a private equity or some kind of somebody that's strategic in the manufacturing space or something like that. At this point, I think the OEM acquisition ship has probably sailed.
But the reason I really wanted to get you back on the show today is because last time you were on, it was on what we were doing face-to-face on the computers. You were just about to introduce the DF3. And then I came to visit you, and we did a demo of you teaching me the sweeper. Anybody listening? We didn't say that B word, the sweeper.
Well, we can say it. We just can't advertise it. And if we can't advertise it, I don't want anybody saying it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Forget it. But you've come up with another new putter. And what's very exciting about this one is you worked with, to quote you worked with Adam freaking Scott. You interviewed him. You were like, "You're Adam freaking Scott, man." And I'm like, no, you're Sam freaking Hahn, man. You've done it too. You are a star. But you've got a new putter, a new design, but it's still with the science that has been developed for the directed force and beyond. Let's hear the story about this, how this came about.
So the putter you're talking about is called Oz1i. It all started it started with Adam. So we were, he and I were together in Los Angeles in 22, I think it was. He was there for the Riviera event. We played some golf together at Los Angeles Country Club. And we had a great round and a really fun day. And then we were just sitting in the clubhouse and just talking. And we want, he's been so good to us, and he's really helped put us on the map more than just using the putter. I mean, he's out there on tour and talking to folks about it, and he really helps us out. And he's never asked for $1. He's never, he's just been such a gentleman about it. And we wanted to do something for him. So the idea, kind of started there. Him having mentioned one day he'd love to design a putter, I thought, well, why don't we, design a putter together? You can take a little slice of it. And, we've since actually ended up working out a different deal, but that was sort of the starting point. And then, as the story goes, we literally, started drawing putters on napkins in the bar at LACC, and, kind of got a starting point of what we wanted it to look like. And then, sort of engaged more officially on this endeavor. And, 12 months later, we had a finalized design, and then another 6 months of sort of the pre-work of releasing a putter. And, but it was really, really cool. I mean, we had ideas, about where we were going to be going with our next product anyway. It lined up with, kind of what Adam was looking for. And
which was what?
Just a D-shaped mallet. We had sort of checked off our version of, a fang putter, our version of sort of a simple blade putter. We'd, acquiesced to those out there who liked the idea behind the DF, but it was too much, too big. So we made the DF3, and so there was, space in our lineup for sort of a D-shaped mallet. And So we were aligned there, and then, it was a really fun process, a really fun creative process. He came out to Eugene. We spent a couple days together with some, basic CAD drawings and stuff, and he would go through and say what he liked about this one and didn't like about that one. And then we started 3D printing, plastic prototypes just for shape and aesthetics and stuff like that. And then got that fairly well narrowed down to just a couple of shapes. And then we started making them out of aluminum, and we'd send them to him. He'd give us feedback. And at this point, we're also passing it around to our guys here at the shop to really start to refine it. And then once, the basic shape, sound, feel, all that stuff is decided, then the really hard work begins for the guys downstairs, where, engineering a putter to balance at a single lie angle and a couple of lengths is really hard, but not monumental. Having a chassis that can be balanced at any length, any lie, any swing weight, this is challenging. This is a major engineering feat. And so once all that stuff was decided, and even Adam was wondering, like, what's taking so long? Because once we had the shape done, it was like it should have gone pretty quick, and it doesn't, because getting the weight ports to be in the right spot and the shaft to be in exactly the right spot, with tolerances of a thousandth of an inch, and it's real tricky. And so to the point where even still we're still, the chassis and everything is ready to go for the sweeper version. But the engineering side of it, we're still screwing with. It's still hard. Yeah. So, but we're getting there.
I was gonna ask, it was there times where Adam would suggest something or come up with something and your team would just be going, I'm not so.
Yeah, actually, there was a couple of things that he liked. Like ultimately once every part of the model that we're going to be releasing to the public is all done and released. He's Adam Scott, so we'll make him whatever he wants. And so if there's slight modifications to the design that he'd like to see, we can accommodate that. Actually, not even so much on the putter design. We were pretty aligned there. There was one, a couple cuts here and a fillet there or whatever that were what they were. But the graphics on the bottom, just simple stuff, just, where we're lasering the logo and the Oz1 logo, and we did a special release with him that had some more, sort of in-depth graphics and stuff like that. And there was one round of graphics and we were really up against deadlines, and it was such a shakeup. But like the graphics team had sent him some stuff for approval and I hadn't seen it. And then the one that he chose was like the 1 out of 6 that was like, absolutely not. So we had to go back and say, like, you're going to have to pick again. But no, I mean, everybody was really aligned on what we wanted this thing to look, sound, feel like. And so, yeah, it was not a terribly tedious process.
You guys must have a collection of bar napkins with drawings on them. You're going to have your own, like, napkin hall of fame. Here's the ball sack. With the original logo. Yep, and totally. Everyone's like, yeah, this is great. And it's like, no, it's not good. So what is different from the Oz1 and from the most recent DF3? But then you also have a new blade, right? You have the Link. Is it Lynx?
Link 1's been out for a few years now.
Yeah.
I mean,
mostly mallets, though. But,
recently, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, what you're doing these days is mostly the bigger-headed putters.
Correct. Yeah, and Oz. Every time we make a new putter. The vast majority of the intent is around listening to what folks want, and so over the last, 4 or 5 years, definitely one of the big complaints that we've gotten is about aesthetics, of course, and we'll get to that in a second. But, another one was about sound, feel, and ball speed. And so we make all of our putters out of aluminum, which is a softer material than a stainless steel or a carbon steel, which does impact the ball speed. Additionally, because of the nature of our technology, the shaft has to be located pretty far away from the face. So the further the center of mass gets from the face, the slower the ball speed. So we have a soft material, then we have some grooves to help with ball roll and some sound and feel, and this really deep CG, and you add all those things up and you have a really big putter that hits a ball very, very softly, which for a lot of people is kind of, awkward. So we had some, and then additionally, because it's aluminum and because there's holes and there's this and there's that, a lot of times the sound isn't exactly what people are hoping for. Some of the earlier mezzes, for instance, had in the DF 2.1 still have kind of a tink to them that isn't desirable for a lot of people. So we wanted to solve for the sound and the ball speed issue with Oz, and to that end, we were able to get the CG way forward. And one of the sort of accidental benefits of getting it that far forward was that we started experimenting with a zero shaft lean option, which enables people to use their favorite grip, which is another one of the complaints that we get, where they like these putters and they like the science, they like the concept, but because of our angled grip, we only have so many shapes, and if you don't happen to fit into one of the shapes that we offer, you're kind of out of luck. And so Oz has much higher ball speed because of the forward CG. The zero shaft lean is available because of the forward CG, which enables you to use any grip you want. And then also we've got some optionality now around what's on the face. And so we have an all aluminum version coming out here in a couple of weeks. The one that we released already is called the Oz1i, I standing for insert, and it's a stainless steel insert. And balls coming off kind of, depending upon a few other factors, between 10 and 15% faster than some of our other models, which is a big deal.
That's a big adjustment.
That's a big adjustment. And
for the
a
golfer.
lot of, for sure, it's not. I mean, that like when people would come out and do fittings, in a sort of siloed environment, hitting same 10, 12-foot putt over and over again, you're not going to see the speed issues as much as when you get out on the golf course. And so we, do a fitting here and build them their putter, and we get out on the golf course and they're starting everything online, but definitely struggling to adjust to speed. The last, 6-8 months since we've had Oz's around, for people to demo, there's no speed adjustment. These things, kind of fall right in line with any other putter off the rack for the most part. With the stainless insert, they're coming off fast enough that, the people aren't needing to make too big an adjustment. However, we are noticing that people who have been used to L.A.B putters, are having some of them are having a harder time with the stainless insert, particularly out on tour. We've got a lot of the insert ones, the only ones that are currently available, and a lot of the L.A.B users currently, try the Oz. They like the shape, they like the way it looks and sets up and all the stuff, but the feel is such a departure from what they're used to with their L.A.Bs that they're waiting around to get the all aluminum version.
Yeah. And so the biggest difference between the insert and the all aluminum is the ball speed when it comes off the face.
Ball speed and certainly sound/feel. Sound is feel for the most part.
Yeah. Right.
There's much more of a pronounced click, coming off the Oz1i. So for people who like, traditional stainless milled putters, this is not going to be a big departure for them to get into an Oz. It's going to feel very similar.
How does Adam like it?
He likes it a lot. He's going to end up on using the aluminum, is my guess. We're still probably a couple versions away from finalizing the sweeper version. So he's still using his mez until we get it right. We had one that was real close. Ultimately, he and a couple other tour players agreed that the face was a little deep, just too high off the ground. And because of the engineering realities, it's not as simple as just taking the face down. Now you've moved the CG and you've shrunk the depth, available for the weight ports. And so, everything on the bottom needed to get reorganized. And, it's taken months to make that simple, I think 1.5 millimeter change, in face height. So, but we're almost there.
Couple things about the Oz1i. Fitting process the same. You guys just your online fitting process, which is truly remarkable and so simple. People are like, really? That's all you got to do? Oh, yeah, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, it's hard to believe you can take because if you're like a golf nerd, you've gone to a true spec or a club champion who fit for our putters, and they do a great, very thorough job, and you're on the Quintic and you're, hitting a bunch of putts and deciding all kinds of different specs on your putter. And then all of a sudden L.A.B's saying you can just take a 5-second cell phone video and send it in, and, you get the same results. And it's hard to believe, but it's legit. The remote fitting really does work. But all of our retail partners can fit. So if you want to do it in person, you can. If you want to do the online fitting, you can. Either's perfectly fine. But if you've already got specs, you've already used a L.A.B putter, and your putter lays down flush without a fight, and you haven't changed anything, there's no reason you can't use the same specs.
Okay. And, one of the big changes that you made with the DF3 versus the Direct Force 2.1 and the Mez and everything else was you included your little gimme grabber, your ball scoop, which was a huge success. People they say to me all the time, is that some person said to me, it's like, that a magnet? What is that? It's like just a perfect fit for a ball. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. And that's true. Everyone responds to that's a really cool way to lift the ball. Now, what about with the Oz?
Oz, you can pick it up. It's more of a traditional scoop? Like you would with an answer, or with anything with sort of a recessed flange there. Easier to pick up than a DF 2.1.
I never found that easy.
Nothing's as easy as the DF3.
Yeah. And then what about availability for people to go and hit some? The retailers, are they getting out there, or is it still a direct-to-consumer product?
So this month they're all starting to hit the shelves. So they'll be available
January
on
of 2025.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. They'll be available for anyone to touch and feel. I think by January 25th is the hope.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. That's great. So the company has been growing because more and more PGA Tour players seem to be absorbing it. This past weekend was the Sony Open. JJ Braun, who was making a run on Saturday. Yeah. Spawn. Yeah. He was playing a DF3, right?
Yeah, he was.
And last week was the premiere of TGL on ESPN. Ricky Fowler, and I'm wearing the Bay Golf Club shirt already. But I loved it. I loved TGL. I thought it was really cool.
I didn't get to see it, but everybody said it was great.
Well, it'll be on, it's Tuesday nights. And Ricky Fowler was using his DF3 on that. So it was always...
Yeah, the tour stuff's been great. I would say that the growth is actually been more attributed to our customers. Our customers,
word of mouth.
Yeah, but it's more than word of mouth. I've never seen
on the course.
Yeah, exactly. People are seeing their friends make putts and then going out and trying it for themselves. And so it's not like, hey, did you hear about this new putter? I mean, people are just like straight up evangelists for our company. I mean, they're out there, pushing as hard as they possibly can to help us out. And that's why we are where we are. And it's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing group of folks that are out there using our putter, extolling the virtues and getting folks to switch. And yes, the tour stuff helps validate someone's decision, to go give it a shot. But we haven't seen, with tour usage, it used to be that we could see in real time on our, website, big spikes in website hits and all that stuff if it got on TV. We don't really see that quite as much anymore. There's still tiny little spikes here and there. It kind of depends upon the moment, depends upon, the putter, the player, all the stuff. But really, it's kind of everything. It's all the support we've gotten from the folks out on YouTube. It's for, support we get from folks like you, influencers, tour players, celebrities, but mostly customers, mostly just, the lab rats of the world out there pushing it on their pals is kind of what's inspired most of the growth.
It's funny. I'm wearing this jersey here. I was going to wear my lab rat sweatshirt, and I thought, no, that's like a little bit over the line here for me in the interview. And then, look, I'm a fan, man. So, like Adam Scott, was it Adam Scott or Lucas Glover's like, oh no, I can win the Masters with this putter.
That was Adam. He didn't, and to be clear, he didn't say I can win the Masters. He looked me dead in the face and said, "I'm going to win the Masters with this putter."
What does that do to your sales?
I mean, he didn't say it to anybody else. He just said it to me, so it didn't do a whole lot to our sales.
No, but when he does, when somebody wins a major, let alone the Masters, what happens to?
It'll be huge. I mean, it'll be absolutely massive when that happens, and that's kind of that next tier where you're getting a lot more views from the average golfer than you would on like at a Sony. Like Grayson Murray won Sony last year with a Link, and then JJ was putting really well all week. He's somebody similar to like, not certainly doesn't have the yips, but I mean putting stats wise hasn't been particularly strong. I think he finished last year around 126, and then this week he was 20 something. So that's a big deal for somebody to improve that much, but it's the Sony Open. Football's, still what most people are watching. And so, the Sony Open or the, some of these early season events definitely don't move the needle like, somebody seeing it on TV at the Masters. It's something like that, makes for a very different set of eyes. I mean, you look at what happened with the Jailbird a few years ago, where the Jailbird, was out, I think, in kind of the mid-teens. I want to say like 16, 17 was when it was originally put out there. And then it sort of fell into obscurity. And then, Ricky'd been using it for well over a year, but it didn't do anything. But then he ended up in the final group at the U.S. Open, and now they had to reissue the putter. So yes, major championships definitely move the needle as far as equipment is concerned.
Yeah. So it's not just the PGA Tour. There's a lot of other people who are high-profile golfers on Champions Tour and the Korn Ferry, right? I mean, you've got a lot of players who are now, and you don't pay any of them. They're doing this all by choice because of results.
Correct. Yeah. We've got a ton. I mean, the Darrell survey is the entity that sort of tracks usage of products across all tours, and the comparative numbers from 24 to 23 they're absurd. I mean, it's just totally absurd. 1,000% growth plus. I mean, just crazy stuff. We've we got the poor Liam. I think Liam, you've had Liam on the show before. I think
I have been trying to get Liam on, and he won't. He knows what I'm calling about, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that."
Well, he got to the point where it was just too much. So we've got like a whole tour department now. We've got reps on every tour. Wow. We've got a director here, Brandon Harding. He was crazy busy. It was him and Brandon Harding were doing everything. So it wasn't just tour guys. It was celebrities and high profile amateurs, colleges, all that kind of stuff. So now not only we have a tour department that's, 6 or 7 deep now. We also have a player development department where all of our college kids are getting served and all that. And the player development will handle some of the developmental tours and some of the smaller tours overseas and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we've got a bunch of players on every major tour. I mean, last year we had 2 senior major wins last year.
Congratulations.
Senior U.S. Open and the Senior PGA Championship, both by Richard Bland, but he actually used 2 different putters. Won the Senior PGA with a Mez Max, and then won the Senior U.S. Open with a DF 2.1.
Wow.
And so after that, the Champions Tour guys, those poor guys don't get a lot of support. The OEMs don't hang out a lot out there on their tours. And so they're always so happy to see us, and we're so happy to see them. I mean, they're a lot of those guys are at a stage in their career where putting's not their favorite part of the game. And, so to get the feedback from them that, makes them feel a little less twitchy is really fun.
So with the success that you're having, I've got to believe there are, and I've seen at least PXG, people are coming out with 0 torque putters, which is going right after you, right? I mean, that's exactly what you've been claiming all along, is there's no torque in these putters. Here's my revealer, and this putter is just staying online the entire time. What's going on with that? How many copycats, and how close are they to being truly copies of what you're doing?
How many? I'm not sure. I mean, one of the so from the big companies or bigger companies, Odyssey's got their square to square line. Bettinardi has their Antidote line. PXG came out with the Allen. Even Roll's got their 0 line, and they're all good. Like, they're all, like, the coolest thing about it is, like, all these companies now just basically said, turns out L.A.B wasn't selling snake oil. Turns out this technology works. They validated us, which has been so nice. Like, now it's a competitive space, right? The 0 torque space. And we feel great about where we're at with that. There's still nobody in the world that can offer the customizations that we do. I would imagine the general consumer understands. We know a lot more about how to get a putter actually properly balanced than some of the other ones do. So we're feeling really good. The frustrating part is the language being used. And this has, been sort of one of the disappointing parts of, you were asking before, just, kind of surprises in the industry. The marketing teams and the R&D teams of these companies do not talk as much as I think you would think that they might. And so, the marketing team has a job to promote a putter that is being designed specifically to compete with L.A.B. And so regardless of what the engineers might be telling them about how the putter works, you're seeing a lot of very misleading language. And in some of these companies that are big enough that they don't have to validate it. They don't have to, explain the science or do whatever. They just say, hey, this is this new putter, you should buy it. And people do, because they've, got great reputations and been in the business for years. And, so that gets a little frustrating. What's been so cool to see is our, the support we get from our customers is just incredible. I mean, every time a new company comes out, there's inevitably somebody on that thread talking about, sort of the, differences, albeit nuanced, but, there's still differences. There's still reasons why our stuff performs better than theirs do, despite the claims that it's, kind of the same thing. Yeah, it's been it's been wild. Like the shift that takes place in like our marketing meetings and the way that we talk about the product has been like, it's like a total 180. Like all of a sudden we don't need to talk about whether or not it's a worthwhile technology anymore. Like, the big companies just ended that conversation. So now we get to talk about the differences between what we do and what everybody else is doing. And that's a lot of fun. Now people they're taking a really much closer look at like, oh, wow. I mean, these guys are on, doing stuff just on a completely different level. It's fun.
Well, I got to believe that when you first got into this business and you would walk into an industry room, heads would turn and go, he's not one of us. He doesn't look like us. He doesn't talk like us. Who is this guy? And now you walk in the room, heads turn going, how do we be like him?
I mean,
right?
They certainly aren't saying that to me, but
no, but I mean, it's like
their actions would indicate they're excited about what L.A.B is doing, and
you're still turning heads.
Oh, for sure,
but in a very different way. When you walk in the room, and that's pretty awesome, man.
And that's been interesting to see too, as some of these other companies are entering the torque space. Like, I appreciate at least a little bit the ones that are sort of at least tipping their caps to us, and recognizing that they're only designing these putters because of what they've seen, L.A.B accomplish. The ones that piss me off are the ones that are like out there, repackaging our exact same marketing language, pretending like they thought of this themselves. But, that's just me.
No
being
surprise
petty. I don't actually care. But yes, surprise. I mean, we're being received in a very, very different way on tour. And it's, I'm not going to the PGA show this year, and I didn't go last year, but, my understanding was, the vibe was very, very different. On tour, I mean, this is not an exaggeration. I mean, people literally used to point and laugh at me. Like, I would look up and I'd see the other bags across the green, and they just never at any time took us seriously in any way. Now I haven't been on tour since the release of all of these competitive putters yet, but I'm going to be out there in a few weeks. I'll be, interested. But even last year, I mean, people were really starting to be much nicer and complimentary, and come up and shake hands with, very respectful appreciations for, they know, like, what, I mean, look, I didn't know how hard it would be. And if I did, I don't know that I would have done it, and so I think that, in addition to, sort of the respect for the technology that a lot of the other companies are now exhibiting, I think they also appreciate that, like, going from absolutely nobody from nowhere, in, the middle of the desert in Reno, to having 15% of the putter market is not something you see every day. It just doesn't happen very often. And they've all been,
at all,
really respectful.
That's great. That's great. All right, let's wrap it up with this. I'm a DF3 user. I love the DF3. Convince me why I need to move to the Oz1.
I'm not gonna, and as a commitment to our consumer too. Like, I mean, one of the things that has always driven me crazy about the industry, and I find it frankly embarrassing, is the number of companies that come out with technology saying, no, this is better than the one that we just sold you 6 months ago or a year ago. I'm not going to tell you that it's better. It's definitely different. It has more options to offer you, and those differences might suit you better. So I can't tell you that for sure you need an Oz. The DF3 might still be, the perfect putter for you. I would definitely encourage you to go try it. See how it feels, see if you like looking at it, see if it sets up a little better. I mean, the technology within our putters is all the same. You're going to, the bigger the putter, the more kind of obvious the technology is going to feel. But for the most part, you're going to have that experience of the putter just kind of doing its own thing with any of our models. So then it comes down to the same stuff as with any other company. Which one do you like looking at? Which one do you like aiming? Which one do you like carrying around? Which one do you want to, make your baby? That stuff's up to you. And so unless we do make, an innovation with some of the optionality and options or customizations and such, I'm not going to tell anybody it's better. I'm just going to say that it's different. And it is. Split's been, I think it's probably about 50-50 now within the factory here of DF3 users versus Oz users. Whereas when the DF3 came out, everybody was using it. So
just for the ball scooper. The gimme grabber.
That was a big part of it for sure. Just this, the little bit more stability in the DF3 than the Mez, which I think people appreciated. But definitely give it a shot. I mean, it's
so if somebody's coming to Lab Golf for the first time,
I think if somebody's coming to Lab Golf for the first time, I think the Oz is absolutely the place to start. From a size standpoint, it's not going to be, some massive departure from putters you've used in the past. Aesthetically, it's really, really clean looking putter. It's not some super space age thing like we've done in the past. And then the options around feel with the stainless insert, it mirrors much more closely that which a lot of people have used. And so, yeah, perfect place to start for a new Lab user.
I still can't wait to try one out. Well, dude, listen, it's what's been so fun about this is that I feel like we've become friends as well as me being a huge fan. And I'm do whatever I can to help promote the product. Even I'm doing interviews with people about putting and stuff. And I'm like, well, how does that work for the Lab putter? It's like, what? Why are you ambushing me? So,
we appreciate you, Fred. I mean, it's like, I've been talking to this whole time just about how customers and everything have made it all happen. But, that includes you. It includes folks like you that, are in the industry and see what it is that we're doing and the sort of, uphill battle that we have to be a relevant player in this industry. We couldn't have done it without you.